never met a white person before. Most of the people that I've met in this realm of my existence, they're black. And some of them don't look like me. Hey, yo, peace. This is your man, Judge, man, coming right back at you with some of that real talk real fast, man. Yeah, man, a lot of the people, man, today, oh, yes, please hit like, share, and subscribe, man. It helps your boy out. But, man, a lot of people who I meet, man, they're mostly black. I've only seen white people on television. Because, see, a lot of people, they really don't know what white people are. See, they live under the illusion of being white, but they're not considered white at all. Now, a white person is a social status. A white person is someone who doesn't work for their money works for them. Or it could be someone who becomes extremely rich off of doing something that they love. Those are real white people. All the people who get up and go to work and to earn your money, you're on the blacklist. Your life is less value than those white people at the top of the pyramid. They give you the illusion of being white, you know what I'm saying, so they could use you to police those up under them, the people who they consider a threat. So they take the amalgamated people and place them in certain positions. And then as they are in certain positions, they look out for other people who look like them. And you believe that makes you white. That does not make you white. You're just helping other people who look like you get jobs and be more successful and get banking accounts. You're helping them cheat to move ahead on the social status or on the social scale. But still, nevertheless, you are not white. You try to walk in one of those balls and one of those big parties that the white people are having and see what's going to happen to you. Same thing that's going to happen to me if I try. So get off your high horse. Now, even the people who consider themselves as the Ku Klux Klan, and they're talking about white power, what they don't realize is that they are a paramilitary group that was created to help police and to strike fear in the hearts of the other people who they see as competition as well. That's all who you are. General Nathan Bedford Force, he had a meeting behind the green door. Yeah, and he met with these Khazarians. 3Ks, y'all. The Ku Klux Klan got food. And I guarantee you, the people who you have elected for your grand wizards, they know what's going on. They know that they're using you for pawns to help keep the American people apart. So you get off your high horse too. Because you sitting there, you getting up and you clocking in to go to work just like every other black person out here that we know. Because many of us, we do not have money that's working for us. We work for our money. Now let's continue on with this here as well. Yesterday I mentioned that, there was the family of man exists in many different colors, from all the way dark skin to very light, bright, damn near looks white. And you can tell it by, it has certain, it may have black nipple, it may have brown nipples, a brown crease between the rear and the genitalia area are brown. That's how you can tell these people who are still of the family of man. But then there was something that came in after that. Now this thing was shown on the scale of humanity, and on the scale of humanity, I believe that's what it was called. It showed a drawing of people from the darkest dark all the way down to the lightest of light to white. And the white being that they showed, it was completely white, like marble white, but it still had black curly hair and a black curly beard. And it also was pictured with a tomahawk in its head, meaning that because this thing had a self-destructive nature. Not only did it have a self-destructive nature, it had a self-destructive nature, and they labeled this thing, they called it a tomahawk. See, now when going through my schools, going through my days of study, when I saw this picture and it was explained to me, and they call it a tomahawk because it had a tomahawk in its head, it made me think. I'm like, man, you know what? As time went by, I started to think, like, man, you know what? Maybe that picture was not in Egypt, because that's what they told us, that picture came from Egypt. Maybe that picture came from the Americas, because I'm not sure if they had a thing that an axe called a tomahawk over there in Egypt at that time. I do not know. It just seems weird to me because, like I said in the video that I did right before this here, the information is coming from so many different angles, man. And the only thing that we can do is get as much of the information as possible and continue to connect the dots. So, man, I am talking on to you, but I'm speaking on to us, and I'm learning with us as well. I'm still connecting the dots. But the family of man is going to have to come together and get over this thing. As a matter of fact, the claim of being a white person, it didn't occur until, according to Dr. Jacqueline Badalora, she said that the term white being referred to as a person or a group of people, it didn't really come in until 1691. She said prior to that, the people, either you were considered Irish, German, or whatever, you weren't considered a part of this white social. You weren't included in the illusion of being white at that time yet. That's the best way I can put it. What happened was the British colonies, man, they were like trying to maintain a stronghold on their tobacco fields, and the people got tired because back then you had indigenous people who were so-called enslaved. Basically, they were prisoners of war. You had people who you consider as indentured servants who came over here from Ireland and many other places, you know what I'm saying? And you had a lot of these black Europeans who came over here from Ireland as too. The first wave were blacks, people who look like this here, but the second wave was mulattoes, and then the third wave was the doggone people who were they were totally amalgamated. They looked like this thing that people call white today. Nevertheless, you had indentured servants, you had native, you had the indigenous people who were prisoners of war and forced to work, and you had people who came over here who was just working, who just had jobs, you know what I'm saying? And they were many different colors. But Britain was taxing the people too hard, and they were too hard on the workers, and they weren't holding up to their side of the contract, because sometimes when people weren't allowed, the people were not allowed to get married. Some weren't allowed to get married. And when they would get married, what they would do was they would add more years onto their indentured servitude. And then any kind of infractions, they just start getting real petty and adding more and more years on people's indentured servitude. So people would find themselves caught up into this thing that we call slavery today. The people got together and they're like, you know what, we ain't having this anymore. So they got together and they went to war and they whooped Britain's ass. Excuse me for cursing. Now here, Britain was like, man, you know what? They are too powerful of a force for us to manipulate and handle when they are together. So we're going to take these people over here and we're going to give them the illusion of, we're going to tell them that we're going to accept you into white society as long as you help us police them. So they brought division amongst the people. And we see that. So here's the thing. The people who were doing most of the servitude were people who had very little skills. Now, I want you to think about the world today. So-called black people have extreme talents and they learn real fast and they're very crafty, and they've always been like that. The so-called people who you call white, they could not compete. So they would find themselves still stuck into the servitude things. And even when they walked away from servitude, their time was up. If they were lucky, they had nothing. They had nothing. They could barely take care of themselves because the people who had money had already bought up most of the land, and you had to have money to even build a home. So a lot of them, they were left out. So when the opportunity came for Great Britain to be like, hey, you know what? What we're going to do, We're going to accept you into our society, and we're not going to educate you, but we will educate your children, and we will move them up on the social status, and then we will even allow some of you to enter some of our secret clubs. And they was like, you know what? Forget them people. All I got to do is throw them up under the bus and help you police them and hold them down to make sure they don't progress, and you're gonna bring me to the table. Yeah, bring you to the table. Some people want to come to the table. They're willing to sell the American people out by any means, Mr. T and Mrs. K. Now let me leave that alone. Yeah, but yeah. So they were like, man. So they were like, sweet. And then this is what they did. They were like, you know what? Not only are we going to bring you to the table, if you help us police them, we're going to take it. We're going to make it a law that they can't have guns. So now they can't protect themselves. So now you can just go up and just take their land and do whatever you want. And to add a cherry on top, we're going to make it to where they can't persecute you in the court of law. So that was a sweet deal for the people of today. You know what I'm saying? If you are a person who lives under the illusion of being a white person, the only reason why you have anything or any kind of power is because you threw us up under the bus. But with you throwing us up under the bus, see, this is what you don't understand. When you're wrestling and you're holding your opponent down, you got to be down there with them. So as you're down there winning, although you may be helping to hold us down, and see, and it doesn't have to be a physical thing. When people sit back and they accept the images that are portrayed on television about so-called people that don't look like them, that's another form of holding people down, because you judge the people for what you've seen on television. You don't judge the people from an individual. You judge them from what you see, and you see something on television, you hear something in the music, you read something in the newspaper, and then you project it on the people as a whole. It's sort of like a magic spell, because what people see and what they believe, things become. And if you lie to yourself long enough about something, you begin to believe it yourself. So a lot of people, man, the television, the media in itself is casting spells, a broad spell, saying that these people are here like that there, these people are here like that there, and these people here like that there. And see, and it's not just affecting white people, it's affecting all people. Because there's some black people who say, oh man, white people ain't got a soul. But then they forget about people like Tina Marie. Yeah, if you white and you don't know about Tina Marie, you losing out. Yeah, Tina Marie, she was a soul sister. Right. She didn't look like us, but she was a soul sister. Listen to her music. And you can hear the soul in a lot of people. And you can see the soul in a lot of people. People are pretty much just people. Hey man, this is your man L Judge, man. It's 13 minutes, man. You know I hate to do it too long, but I hope you got something out of this here, man. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about the birth of the wild man. Peace and blessings. I'm out.